Curious by nature, Sophia Lovelace had been asking questions since she could form words, always wanting to know why things were the way they were, always needing answers to her burning questions. Her sweet mother Victoria loved this inquisitive trait about her daughter, but worried one day it may get her in trouble. You don't always need the answers. Sometimes things just are the way they are, and the truth is better off buried, sweet pea, her mother would tell her. Sophia often wondered what her mother meant by that. Did she know something she wasn't telling her? She had read 250 out of 600 Nancy Drew books by the time she was 17. In her 20s, that childhood curiosity evolved into a sharper obsession, debunking ghost stories, urban legends and folklore. By 22, she had already busted her fair share of local hauntings on her YouTube channel called The Hollow Truth, a sarcastic jab at her small town, Dry Hollow. To Sophia, things that went bump in the night belonged in campfire stories, not reality. But reality has a way of bumping back. One night, after finishing edits on her latest YouTube video, Sophia was finally ready for some much-needed sleep when her phone buzzed. "It's 2 a.m, she muttered, rubbing her eyes. "Who the hell is messaging me now?" It wasn't a text. It was a comment on her latest upload. "I absolutely adore your videos. I'm in England and was wondering if you could investigate our folklore of the Lantern Man. He's supposed to haunt the Fenlands. He's an evil spirit who draws people into a watery grave in the reed beds. He waves his lantern to catch your eye, and by the time you see the light, it's too late." Sophia rolled her eyes. "Oh, so scary," she said aloud, voice dripping with sarcasm. "At least try to make it believable." She tossed the phone back on her nightstand and turned off the light. But sleep didn't come. She tossed, turned, adjusted the covers, counted backwards from 100. Nothing helped. The words kept echoing. He waves his lantern to catch your eye, and by the time you see the light, it's too late. Why was it still stuck in her head? She didn't actually believe that garbage, did she? Sleep wasn't coming. Sophia lay in bed, eyes wide in the dark, counting the seconds between the creaks in the walls and the soft whir of her fan. Anything to drown out the echo of that message. Finally, with a frustrated sigh, she threw off the covers and walked barefoot to her desk, the blue glow of her laptop screen cutting through the room like moonlight. "Fine," she muttered, opening a search tab. Lantern Man folklore. The results were sparse but old. Local blogs, digitized pages from out-of-print books, and a handful of half-dead forums. As she scrolled, a knot formed in her stomach. The details were always the same. A light in the dark, a figure in the reeds, and a voice that sounded like someone you loved calling your name. The stories spanned generations, always from the same place. The Fenlands. Her fingers paused over the keyboard. That name stirred something faint and unplaceable, like a dream she'd forgotten long ago. She clicked on a dusty-looking PDF archived on an old local history site. Strange Deaths and Disappearances of the Fenlands, 2004 edition. Her breath caught when her eyes landed on an entry halfway down the page. April 19th. 2-year-old girl presumed drowned after vanishing near Blackwater Marsh. Twin sister found unharmed at edge of reeds, unable to speak. Sophia's stomach dropped. There was no photo, no names, just a clipped police report and a timestamp that was 2 years after her birth year. She stared at the screen, heart pounding in her ears. Her mother had always told her they left England because of a job offer in Dry Hollow. "Besides, it's too damp, too grey," she used to say with a laugh. But now Sophia wasn't sure. The unease prickled deeper now, not just in her thoughts, but under her skin. Because suddenly, the silence in her childhood, those gaps in the photo albums, the questions her mum always dodged, felt less like forgetfulness and more like something buried. Suddenly her mother began acting off, quieter than usual, jumpier. She flinched at small noises, double-checked the locks twice before bed, and had started pulling the curtains shut before the sun even set. Sophia had chalked it up to work stress. Victoria was an ER nurse after all. Tonight felt different, though. She moved through the house like a shadow, barely speaking during dinner, eyes flicking to Sophia like she was waiting for her to say something specific. At 10:47 p.m., Victoria got a call while she and Sophia were watching a movie and left in a rush, muttering something about an emergency in the ER. Sophia watched her tail lights disappear down the driveway and a strange tightness built in her chest. When she turned back toward the hallway, she froze. The attic ladder was down, unfurled from the ceiling like a tongue of splintered wood. It was never left down. Her mum was obsessive about keeping it locked up. But there it was, gaping open like it had been waiting for her. I should just close it, lock it and go to bed. Mum always said never to go up there. Something about black mold, Sophia thought to herself. Before a second thought could come, Sophia found herself making her way up the dusty, creaky attic steps. She didn't know why, but she felt like she was meant to go into the attic that day, almost as if something drew her to it. The air was stale and thick with dust, but there was no sign of mold. Just box after box stacked in shadowy rows. Most were blanketed in years of neglect. All but one, the box that sat by the wall, was clean, as if someone had recently opened it or had been opening it over and over again. She knelt beside it, brushing her fingers over the lid before peeling it back. The faint smell of lavender drifted up, soft and strange, like old perfume trapped in time. Inside were a few faded baby clothes, a sun-bleached drawing in crayon folded gently in half, and a pair of identical stuffed rabbits. One had a yellow ribbon around its neck, the other blue. A strange ache bloomed in Sophia's chest. She reached in and touched the yellow one, its fur matted, the ribbon barely holding on by a thread. Something deep in her stirred. Not a memory exactly, more like the shape of a memory. She unfolded the drawing. Two little girls with matching curls stood hand in hand under a beaming sun, their names written above them in their mom's handwriting, Sophia Isabella. Her breath hitched. On the back of the paper, in her mother's elegant handwriting, was a single line. Last drawing they made together. Before the pond. Sophia sank back onto her heels, the attic pressing in around her like a closing hand. They, not her, not me. They made it together. Her eyes lingered on the name. Isabella written in her own mother's handwriting, clear as daylight, undeniable. She didn't remember drawing this. She didn't remember owning a second stuffed rabbit. Where did the blue one come from? Sophia's favourite colour had always been yellow. She didn't remember ever having a sister. But the evidence was here, real and physical, carefully hidden. Her pulse pounded in her ears as a creeping thought grew. What else had been erased? The empty spaces in photo albums, the times her mother looked at her like she wanted to say something but didn't. None of it felt innocent anymore. Sometimes her mother would accidentally call her the wrong name and quickly correct herself. It had been right under her nose the whole time. No wonder her mother didn't want her to ask too many questions. Her childhood wasn't missing pieces, it had been edited. Rewritten like a fairy tale meant to keep the monster out. Or worse, to make her forget it had ever come. She stared at the words, then squeezed her eyes shut, praying she'd wake up in bed, sweaty and shaken but relieved. Just a silly nightmare to laugh about in the morning, but this was no nightmare. When she opened her eyes, the words were still there, etched in her mother's handwriting. The paper suddenly felt impossibly heavy, like it carried the weight of something buried long ago. Last drawing they made together. Before the pond. The pond? What pond? Her heart thundered as the silence was broken by the unmistakable sound of the front door creaking open. Then came her mother's voice, bright but tired. Sophia, are you still awake? It was a false alarm, so I got to come home. Sophia's blood turned to ice. She wasn't ready for this. Not yet. Her trembling fingers clenched the paper as panic prickled across her skin. She had no plan, no clever lie, and worse, no time to think. And there was no way she could climb down without being seen or heard. Sophia took a deep breath, shoved the folded drawing into the pocket of her hoodie, and climbed down from the attic with careful steps. Her hands shook as she pushed the ladder back into place and turned to find her mother already standing in the hallway, purse still slung over her shoulder, keys dangling in one hand. Victoria's smile faded the moment she saw Sophia's face. "Sweet pea, what were you doing up there? Are you okay?" Sophia didn't answer right away. She stared at her mother, really stared, and for the first time in her life, she saw someone hiding. Not tired, not overworked. Hiding. "What pond, Mum?" she asked, her voice flat. Victoria blinked fast, clearly shocked. "What?" "The drawing," Sophia said, pulling it out and unfolding it like evidence in a trial. "The one that says, 'Last drawing they made together, before the pond.' You wrote that, Mum. That's your handwriting, and please don't try to convince me it isn't." Victoria froze, the colour draining from her face so fast it looked like something had reached through her skin and pulled it out. "I don't understand," Sophia pressed, her voice cracking. "Who's Isabella?" A long silence stretched between them, heavy and aching. Then Victoria took a step back, leaning against the wall like her knees might give out. Her eyes shimmered with tears she didn't let fall. "You weren't supposed to remember her," she whispered. "You were so little. I thought it was better that way." Sophia's throat tightened. "You thought it was better to erase her?" "She didn't die," her mother said, barely audible now. "Not exactly. We lost her in the Fenlands. I looked away for a second and—" Her voice broke. There was a light in the reeds, and then she was just gone. Sophia staggered back a step, like the truth itself had hit her. You knew it was something unnatural." Victoria nodded slowly, miserably. "That's why we left. That's why I picked Dry Hollow. I thought if I never spoke her name again, if I kept you far away from where it happened, it wouldn't find us again." But Sophia already knew, deep in her bones, that it had. Her mother went completely silent after that. She wouldn't or couldn't say more. She just sat in the kitchen, hands gripping a full coffee mug tightly that she never drank. Sophia spent the next 3 nights glued to her laptop, searching for anything she could find on the Fenlands, the pond, and the Lantern Man. The folklore was scattered and inconsistent. He was a will-o'-the-wisp in some tales, a drowned soul in others. But the pattern was always the same, the light, the draw into the reeds, the vanishing. She found old newspaper clippings buried in the digital archives of the local Fenland Gazette. One article from 19 years ago mentioned a missing child, Isabella Lovelace, aged 2. No foul play suspected, presumed drowned. The family left town shortly after. There was a grainy photo, a little girl who looked just like her own childhood photos. Sophia felt tears welling up in her eyes but quickly pushed them away. The next morning, before the sun rose, she packed a bag, tossed her camera into it, and pulled up directions to the Fenlands on her phone. She didn't tell her mum or leave a note. She simply highlighted a passage from one of the legends, taped to the fridge where she knew her mother would find it. "He waits in the reeds, lantern swinging like a lullaby, and if you follow the light, you follow it home." Sophia planned to follow it, and this time she wouldn't look away. After hours of driving, she was there again. As Sophia steps out of her car and into the fog-drenched marshland of the Fenlands, something feels wrong in a deeply familiar way. It's quiet, but not empty. The reeds rustle like whispers, the air thick and clinging to her skin. She follows the old footpath, one that shouldn't feel familiar, but does. The deeper she walks, the more she feels it. The place remembers her. Trees lean in as if watching. Water laps against the shore with slow, deliberate rhythm. Eventually, she finds the pond, still black, endless. A single wooden sign juts from the earth. Blackwater Marsh, no trespassing. Sophia's camera hangs forgotten around her neck. Then the light appears. Faint at first, a flicker through the reeds across the water. It bobs, swaying like it's held by an unseen hand. Sophia's breath catches. It's exactly as described in the legends, and yet it feels like something more personal, like it's meant for her. "Isabella?" she calls out. No answer. The light moves, draws her in. But this time she doesn't walk straight into it. She studies it, challenges it. "Isabella," she whispers, and the light stops. Her voice shakes. "If you're still out there, if you can hear me, I'm not leaving without you." The light wavered across the dark water, bobbing just above the reeds like it was beckoning her. Sophia stood at the edge of the pond, heart hammering. Fog curled low around her legs, but she didn't move. She could feel it in her bones. The place remembered her. Then he appeared. The lantern man rose from the marsh. He was tall and cloaked in waterlogged black. His lantern held high. His face was a shadow, but his presence was suffocating and ancient. "You took her," Sophia said. "You kept her here." The lantern man said nothing, but behind him, the pond rippled, and a second light flared to life. From the mist, a woman stepped forward. Sophia froze. She was her. Same face, same eyes, but not a reflection. The girl from the pictures had grown up. Isabella. She looked confused, dazed, as though waking from a long, dark sleep. The lantern man reached toward her like he meant to pull her back. "No!" Sophia held up the drawing, the one they made together, and shouted, "This is proof," she said, holding the drawing high. "She's not yours, she's mine. We remember now." The lantern flickered violently. The figure recoiled as if struck. The wind howled. Then, with a sound like shattering glass, the lantern man dissolved into smoke, his lantern falling and extinguishing in the pond with a hiss. The fog lifted. Isabella stumbled forward, catching herself on Sophia's shoulder. Same age, same height, same haunted look in her eyes. "Sophia," she whispered. Sophia nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I knew you'd come," Isabella whispered. "I kept waiting for the light to change." 2 weeks later, Sophia uploaded her final video to The Hollow Truth. She spoke softly into the camera. "Some stories are true, but sometimes the truth isn't something you prove. It's something you remember, something you find again." She paused, emotion in her throat. "I didn't solve this mystery. I lived it and I got my sister back." She didn't explain further. She didn't need to. The comments exploded with theories, tears, and support, but Sophia didn't answer any of them. She didn't need answers anymore because sometimes the truth isn't buried. It's just waiting for someone to come home.